Welcome to Jay's Garage. I've been able to put something, a little gameplay project together over the weekend. This is the stylized Windmill Valley by Style Arts with a custom character that I still had and a product called DigiCam. So I had envisioned this to be a little bit of a type of puzzle inside a game. So this is certainly not the main game, but it's sort of cool to, walk around in this level with a nice character with the DAZ project and take pictures. So the idea behind it is somebody gives you a task like this, so find all picture locations, and instead of giving you marker points, you let the player walk around and see where these might be. So we have a picture album in this, and we can get sort of clues as to where these locations are, and then let the player walk around in them and take pictures of it. So like in this, for example, this windmill here, I'm going to bring up my camera, zoom in, frame it up nicely. It tells me I can in fact take a picture of it from the east windmill, and then I go and focus on it and take a picture. Perfect. I get a prompt that I have indeed found a good one, and then I can go back into the album and I can see that this picture has been replaced with a color version of it. So the original product, the DigiCam product, works by this album being empty, and you tag items in the level that you want players to take pictures of. But I've sort of modified it, and I'll show you the code at the end of this video in which how I'm actually doing that. So in this case, I'm pre-populating the album with black and white pictures or with clues, and I'm not adding things to the album. I'm just looking where are these things, and then I'll have the pictures replaced. So this one here I happen to know is another picture I can take, which is the far bridge. Typically you'd also have characters and whatnot in here. Far bridge, that's it. And you've got to frame it up properly. If you're not at the right angle, it might not find it. But also notice that it doesn't find everything. So I can't take a picture of a stone unless I define that in the data table. So that was a bit of a new thing for me, the data table. So I love this here. Ding, perfect. You also have this option to, if it was super dark, you can go and switch a lamp on. That's quite nice. I think those were these here. So 6 pictures I've taken. 6 pictures are still to be taken. And yeah, GASP works beautifully. I've put some traversal bits and pieces in here so I can sort of climb over the fence here. I mustn't get wet, that's important. There we go. This is another thing that I've done thanks to Story Framework. There's a bench here and I can go and sit down. That's sort of nice, isn't it? That is very cool. I did this with an animation from iClone that I brought in, retargeted that to my character here. But because there's always things that are not quite working perfectly, I then went ahead and added a layered FK control rig to the characters and added several tracks to add these bits and pieces. So there were some adjustments that were necessary for the shoulders, there was some for the feet that were necessary, and they were all on separate tracks. And there was one for the facial animation, so the eye blinks and the smile on the face. So I added that, baked all that out. That was in a separate level sequence. Baked all that out as a linked animation sequence, which is what Story Framework under the hood then calls. Yeah, so very, very cool. I have to say, I'm actually really, really chuffed that I've been able to put this together. There's some sheep here. I want to turn them into little interactables that they say, stuff. I think that's very cool. So meanwhile, in our photo album then, it looks like we have 6 more pictures to find. Thankfully, I have played this 56,000 times already, so I know exactly where these locations are. But if you don't, then maybe there'll be a helpful NPC that might give you clues where to look. Maybe even roaming NPCs. So this here is another picture that I can take. Funny scarecrow. Whoops. Let's do that. Perfect. Whoops. Ah, man. I think did I just louse that up? I think I did. That was overexposed. Dang. I might have to go and change that. Replace that. I don't know if I'm going to stick with the black and white pictures. They're more like placeholders right now. I might replace them with sketches or not. Maybe I'll just go and let people go and ask certain people around the level. So this is a good example of why I really like DigiCam. So when it's framed up properly, it'll work fine. This weird crazy washing here. But if I go and zoom in too much, then it says it's out of range. So out of range is always a good message to know about, that this is not something this is technically something I can take a picture of, but I haven't framed it up properly. So that's very cool. So that's nice. this one's good. Ding, perfect. Found a new picture location. So every time I do that, it gives me that little pop-up message at the bottom, but it also goes and tracks my tasks here at the top. And I can hide that if I wanted to, or show that if I don't want to see that. And that message also changes accordingly. So one edge case that we have to handle is always when it gets to 1. So currently I'm saying there are 3 more pictures, there are 2 more pictures, but I can't say that if there's 1 picture, because otherwise it would say there are 1 more pictures to take, and that is of course so wrong. So we have to handle that. Out of range, maybe, yeah, there we go. Steve's house. Okay, perfect. Steve's house, great. This happens to be another one here, this last windmill. I think this is the north windmill. Can we take a picture of that? Can we? Yes, we can. Look how this overlay changes with the rotation of the windmill. I think that's just marvelous. Boom, perfect. And now it says there is only 1 more picture to find. And of course, I can't quite remember which one that was. Let's have a look. It is the south windmill. Okay, good. That's got to be one of these. One of these windmills over here. Okay, let's take a picture of that. Then that task will complete and will actually auto remove itself here. I should also handle what happens if we jump into the river. I think that that might kill the player, because I don't think I have any swimming animations here. Let's see, is this it? No, that's the picture, that's the windmill we've already taken a picture of. Haven't we done this? This one here, I think that's that one. Maybe from the field here, let's do that. Jump over here. Those were traversal blocks I've added there, and then just invisibilized, so super easy. This south windmill, okay. Let's take a picture of that like so. Like so. Yes. You can also define how long this defocusing thing happens. Look at that. So photo quest is complete, and as a result our task has gone away, and we can now go and grab another task from some other taskmaster here. Height wasn't quite correct there, but hey, that's cool. We can jump over these things, so that's quite rad. Okay, so well, that is the little photo quest. Let me go and show you. Oh, it's something else. Totally forgot about this. I'm using a gamepad right now to control the character, but if I were to use the mouse and keyboard, that changes immediately to the mouse and keyboard controls here. So that is very cool as well. Yes, so that's that. Let me show you the code that I've changed here, just in case you're interested in that. These are these traversal blocks that come with the gameplay animation sample project. I just put them around, and on begin play I'll just make that text render actor and the block itself invisible. So the code, by default, DigiCam. So first of all, I'm gonna do something in begin play here, and that is just so that I added 8, in my case, photos here from structs, and I just pre-populated them with things. I haven't loaded them to the array. I'm doing that manually in begin play. This is it. The first path is Steven's code, so that's still intact, and the second branch here, the second what do you call it, the second branch of the sequence, so to say, that just grabs all these pictures and sets them into the captured photo array. I'm also setting the length of the array here, so that I can keep track of how many pictures we need to count down from. So that's that. And then the actual code, in order to take pictures and add them to the database, that happens in here under capture object. So Steven's code, Steven's the developer, by the way, and Steven's code is still here, so I've just copied that out, so secured it and overwrote my own bits and pieces into here. And this looks a bit complicated, I gotta say, but the good thing is we don't have to worry about much of it. So all this code is still intact, and the original, which essentially goes and asks, do we have a pre-supplied picture, or do we want to use the picture that the player has actually framed up from a render target? And the pre-supplied picture happens here. That gets added to an otherwise empty array, and that's how that picture gets stored. So no matter how badly the player frames it up, you can pre-supply a picture, or maybe even a drawing of a picture or something else in the data table, and then that's what would be added to the album. And in my case, there was another node, another add node here that I've replaced with my own logic, which is that lets us find the picture that we've just taken, the location that we've just taken in the data table, and that lets us then know what element of the existing array that is, and that then lets us replace this. So this is the replace an item in the array code, and we're using that array, and we're using that all that data that arrives here anyway. And we'll have a look into that function here in a moment. After that, we just go, and this is some debug code here, and then we're just going to decrease the picture count, and that's the only thing that I've added to this function. So these two things. So the heavy lifting code happens in find photo in data table. That looks a little bit, that looks less intimidating than the next one. And all it does, this looks crazy because I've just expanded the struct here. So I'm grabbing the data table rows. The data table is what you find here under DigiCam core blueprints data tables. This is your data table where you define each picture and what it's called, is there a pre-supplied picture and all that. So that's that. We're grabbing that. That was a little new to me. And then do a for each loop through all the rows of the data table, and then we're going to go and loop through the columns essentially. And each column gives us the name, among other things, but we're only interested in the name that arrives as a name. And we're going to go and convert it to a string because for some reason I can only compare strings in Unreal Engine. And if that name happens to match, then we can return this picture as well as the array element. So because then we know where that was, and that then lets us go back here and set that with that value. So we're taking all that out and setting that out. I'm going to put this on an article on my website as well, just so that I don't forget. The more intimidating function is actually how to make the counters work properly, and that is happening here in decrease picture count. So that's just something that I've slotted in here. And that looks a little wild, but that's only because we're doing some, some text bits and pieces here. So we've got two branches of the sequence. The top branch literally just goes and decrements my pictures remaining by 1. And then it checks, have we arrived at 0? If that happens to have happened, then we're going to complete the quest, and if not, we're going to not complete that and keep going essentially. And then I can test that variable somewhere else, namely on the second branch that says here, this is it. Is it actually complete? If it has completed, we'll handle that at the end. But if it hasn't completed, which is usually the case, then we're going to go and create a little pop-up thing in the bottom left corner that says, hey, you found a picture location. This was successful. We're going to play a sound. That just adds that widget to the viewport. Play a sound, gets automatically deallocated as well. And also we're going to update the message in the task at the top right. So this is where that happens. So pictures remaining, if they happen to be 1, then we're going to have to handle that that singular case. But if it isn't, then we're going to say there's an append node here that says there are so many pictures, more pictures in this area. We're going to convert that, and we're going to put this into the edit main task in queue, which is being called on the inventory manager, because that's the thing that is in charge of the main task. And if it happens to be 1, then we're going to specify a special message, and you say there is only 1 more picture to find. That's why that looks so complicated here. And once that's done, essentially we're saying if the photo quest is complete, then we're going to go to the top branch, and we're going to just bring up another little widget here that says, hey, you've done it, well done. And then at the top here, we're just going to go and complete the main task on the inventory manager. And that, I think, was all I can tell you about this, because those are the only functions that I've changed on the DigiCam actor. This is all on DigiCam AC. That's the main DigiCam component here. That's the one. And the rest, maybe the animation thing, maybe I'm going to cover that in another video, because that was sort of interesting to do. Yeah, but there we go. That's all. I just wanted to show you the items that I've used for that. So of course that was DigiCam by Visual One Projects. So very cool, very easily integratable, and it's designed to let players take pictures of items that you define just with a tag. So you just go, let me show you that actually. How is this the scarecrow here? How is that something that we can take a picture of? All you do is in the details panel, you look for tag and you give that a tag, and then the tag you define in the data table. And if an object has a tag, then it can be taken a picture of, and if it doesn't, then it can't. But it's super easy to just add these tags and then populate the data table. So that's the one thing I've used. And of course the other one was the stylized Windmill Valley environment by StyleArts, which is currently free on the Epic Store. So that's very cool. And I wanted to know what my character would look like in here. Character, by the way, is this June Modular by Lab 3 Studio. That is the character. That's a modular character that was a little bit tricky to set up. I might do a video on that as well. And that was it. Oh, the other one, of course, that I've used for this, that's for the notifications. That's Story Framework, also by Visual One. I highly recommend this. It's a really, really easy and extensible framework for story games. And I decided I have so many characters and environments. I really would like to tell a few very simple stories in that, and of course get my feet wet. And how does this even work? So yeah, those are the things that I've used for that. I hope you liked it. I hope you enjoyed. Have a good one, and I will see you in the next video. Take care. Bye bye.